and welcome to Ignite 2022, an industry-focused professional panel series. My name is Katie Martucci. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Assistant Director for Career Education at DelVal University in our Center for Student Professional Development, and I will be your friendly Ignite facilitator. Today's diagnostic testing and drug development industry panel will spotlight professionals from our featured employer, Labcorp. As a reminder to our students, if you enjoyed today's conversation, you can email cspd@delval.edu to connect one-to-one with any of our panelists today. And you can also check out more Ignite videos on our SharePoint site, which will be linked in the video notes. So without further delay, we can go ahead and dive in. I would ask if everyone can please briefly introduce yourself with your title. And Melissa, we can start with you, and Olivia, and then Sam.
Okay, Melissa Elliott. I graduated from DelVal in 1982, which is a long time ago. Here at Labcorp Early Development, I am the site lead, which is the most responsible person at this site from a regulatory perspective. I also have the responsibility of managing the study coordination team, which is a team that works with the study directors that run the toxicology studies. They work hand in hand with them, preparing protocols, study designs, and communicating with customers.
I am Olivia Haag. I graduated DelVal in 2016 with a Bachelor's of Science in Wildlife Conservation and Management. I very quickly moved to the lab animal science route about 2 years after graduating. Right now I'm a level 2 veterinary technician, but I started at Labcorp as a large animal technician from 2018 to 2020, and then I've been a vet tech 2 ever since.
My name is Sam Tomlinson. I graduated from DelVal in 2011, also wildlife conservation, and I honestly could not find any animal related jobs near me, and then I moved to New Jersey and was like, well, while I'm here, let me see what's nearby, and I found Labcorp, and I'm enjoying it ever since.
Thank you, everyone. Great to have some alum on the panel, and I think that you will have some really good stories to share with our current career exploring students. And I love that you've all been with Labcorp for a little while now, so we'll have some really good insight about the work that you do there in that organization. Okay, so we'll dive into our first question here, and we can kind of go in the same order unless you need a little more time to think, and you can always pass it on. But Melissa, can you talk about how and when you first learned about your current career choice and this industry?
Sure. I like Sam, I live in New Jersey. I went to DelVal like a lot of folks do, hoping to end up becoming a veterinarian. Had a little too much fun at DelVal. One of the things when I was there, they had just started offering lab animal classes in the evenings. I think it was only the first year they had offered them while I was there. So I decided, since I live in New Jersey, that might be a good thing to have in my back pocket. On graduation, I tried to find some more agriculturally related career options, and ended up finding a position with ExxonMobil in their toxicology lab, which I didn't really feel that I would do the lab animal career choice for a long time. So it was my 6-month job in my mind that turned into 16 years with Exxon. So sometimes you find, something that's really what fits for you, even though you may not have started out thinking that. So it's kind of, DelVal kind of gave me the idea, and then Exxon, that career there kind of took me in a lot of different directions within the industry, which was a great experience.
Thank you.
Pretty much same for me as well. I didn't even know, honestly, it never crossed my mind that lab animal science was a thing until I went to DelVal. So I had my first lab animal science class. It had to be sophomore or junior year. And at the time, I was still really unsure about what I want to do with my career. I knew it needed to be in animals, but as we all know, there's so many avenues with animals. So I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. Being in wildlife, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out and save the world and save all of the soon to be extinct species. Like, that's totally what I'm going to do. I'm just going to be a female version of Steve Irwin. But I graduated. The lab animal science kind of was always in the forefront of my brain. I thought it was a really cool thing. So I started at University of Pennsylvania about 2 years after I graduated, and that's when I start getting into it. It was really just husbandry at the time, but it started my love for rodent species in the lab animal atmosphere. And then I applied here at formerly in Vigo, that's now Labcorp, and yeah, I love it. So it's right up my alley.
I pretty much
Same
same
thing.
thing. Was not entirely sure during college what I wanted to do, but I did know that I needed to work with animals. That was like they made us do the job placement kind of on in-person experiences like internships, and I was at the wildlife center down in Lambertville and loved every minute of it, raising the baby raccoons, but it doesn't pay. So I just kept looking for something that I could take care of animals and still get paid for it and pay off said student loans and whatnot. So I eventually wound up finding Labcorp, and I see plenty of animals every day and I love them and take care of them.
Yeah, I hear that often when I speak to folks who are a few years out from their education, and it might be like I started with one idea, but where I ended up is a little bit different, and oftentimes it's not a career path that they would have imagined themselves going into when they first, started at DelVal. So I'm sure that your stories will help students to see themselves in you and to kind of normalize, like, becoming a veterinarian is amazing, or working with wildlife is amazing, or rehab, but there are other options too. So I'm wondering if you can each share an example of a professional obstacle, maybe you might use the word failure, whatever it is for you, that you faced in your career, in your career progression, and kind of how you've overcome that, or how you did overcome it.
I think that one of, not necessarily a failure in the job, but a lot of times, and people see this all the time, that companies relocate, they buy each other. Then there are redundancy situations and people are, laid off. And when that first happened, when I was at Exxon, they were moving their lab and downsizing the workforce. They made an opportunity for folks to take some money and agree to separate. And I had never not worked for, I don't know, I worked all through high school and college and 16 years there, and it was very difficult. So ended up taking the package. While I was at Exxon, luckily for me, I started in animal care and acute toxicology, eventually went to a lot of different departments. So I was in report production, pharmacy, genetic toxicology, ended up with a lot of different experiences. So when that riff happened, I took the opportunity, and through some colleagues, found an opening in the quality assurance group at the site I'm at now, although it had a different name. So it actually was a great turning point in my career. I spent 14 years in quality assurance here, eventually becoming the director, hosting the FDA regulatory inspections, customer audits. It was a real growth experience. So it's just that sometimes out of something bad in your mind, you think is bad, and it really gives you time to reflect and make a change. I'm not telling Olivia and Sam that they should do that right now, but it's devastating when it happens, and it really is an opportunity if you look at it that way.
Thanks. Yeah. And I think it's interesting you bring up this idea of if you happen to find yourself in a larger organization there might be opportunities to work in different departments within that same organization, kind of diversify your skill sets, explore different interests. And for you, that really was a benefit.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Something similar to me. I mean, I've only been here 4 years versus the longer time that Melissa's been here. So my professional barriers are way different, but one that sticks out to me, I was only probably a vet tech for about 6 months at the time. So it's very much a vet tech baby. And our only other vet tech at the time changed departments. So it was just me with about 1,000 animals to myself. So, I mean, it was really stressful at the time, but I think without that experience, I wouldn't have been able to learn how to very easily multitask, be as organized, learn to control chaos, physically in the workplace and in my head. I think without that experience, I wouldn't have been able to so quickly and efficiently gain those things that you really need for this department. I'm sure I would have gotten it eventually, but that just really kicked me in the gear. So I do see it now that it's been a couple years since then. I've had time to recover. Now there's 4 of us. But now I'm able to see that it was kind of a good thing for my career development at the time.
So along the same lines of Olivia's is just any type of work with animals. They're so unpredictable in everything that they do.
Yeah.
You could try, but you can't control what the animals are going to do. So just working with animals gives you such experience and practice in working on your time management and your just skills as a person, honestly. Even though you're spending so much time with animals, it's making you better at peopling somehow.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't a people person until I started here.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Thank you. That's awesome perspective. So if you could think to, maybe put yourself back in the shoes of a college student or even recent college grad, what advice would you give a current student job seeker in terms of, if they're hoping to work in an organization like Labcorp or go into lab animal sciences as a field?
So the one thing I'd say is there's nothing wrong with starting from the basics. So not expecting to come out of school and be running the show. Starting, I started as an animal tech cleaning cages. Olivia and and Sam similarly, we started with hands-on physical animal work. That doesn't mean that's where you're going to end up. So getting your foot in the door, getting that knowledge, and I would say once you're in the door, learning as much as you can about the business, if it is a business situation. It's hard when you're very busy and you are doing that kind of work all day long to find the opportunities to really try to understand how the business functions and what other things are there for you to learn. So I think I always say here, even with our study directors, our PhD folks, we always have a great appreciation for those folks that started in the trenches. I think it builds character, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. So people should take that opportunity for growth and for learning and do with that from a career perspective, and not expect the world when you first step out the door, because it's not really the reality.
I was going to say the exact same thing to whoever wants to do something like this, that you pretty much do have to start from the very bottom to really get all aspects of how things work. Without being a husbandry technician at UPenn, I wouldn't really know how, the specifics of caging, the requirements, the USDA, the guide, everything like that. Like, those things are our Bible. And I wouldn't really have known that if I had just started right off the street from college as like a vet tech. Like, I feel like it really would have hindered my understanding of how the whole thing works. So it's really just getting your foot in the door wherever you can and really just doing the best that you can all the time. Your supervisors, your managers, your colleagues, they're all kind of watching you at all times, whether you think they are or not. So just doing a good job. And for me, I always ask questions, and I know everyone has heard people say that in the classroom or wherever. It's like, just, it's okay to ask questions. And I ask questions all the time, but it also shows that I have interest in what we're doing. I may have worries or anxieties about something I've never done before. So I'm going to rattle off 100 questions right off the bat because I want to understand what I'm doing so I can do a better job for the overall care and welfare of the animal. So just asking questions, getting your foot in the door however you can, and just doing a really good job at it.
Yeah, asking questions is definitely better than just guessing at what's best for the animal.
Yeah.
That y'all just hit all of everything that was relevant.
We got you covered, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that you're right, Olivia, that's some advice, like the asking questions piece is some advice that students will hear over and over again, but how many of them will take it to heart? Maybe this time, the 500th time they heard it from you, they will. So I think that's really valuable. And students are in the position to be curious and to be learners and to really lean into that part of their identity. So what better time, right, than to get comfortable asking questions than when you're already in school. We do have a little bit of extra time here, so I'd like to ask some more questions. So thinking about your day-to-day, thinking about your career progression, what specific skills or talents have you needed to cultivate or keep really sharp in order to be successful?
So the one thing I hated when I was in college was the public speaking course. It's not my thing. Did not like public speaking. Do so much public speaking now and have, especially in my quality assurance career, that probably could have got a better jump start on that. Embracing speaking in front of folks. There's a lot of opportunity there because the more you are outgoing and will speak about things that you know, and training sessions, training people, participating in things, the more exposure you get. So I think it's something, it's not so much a technical skill as just a personal skill that I think can really help people go far if they're confident in front of other people.
For someone who wants to be, whether in this field or specifically, veterinary technician or anywhere in like the vet field within, lab animal science, it is so important to be able to multitask. It doesn't have to be a chaos version of multitask, but just being able to, like, every second of every day, I'm like, okay, I'm working with this monkey or this rat right now, and I know exactly what I'm going to be doing next, and I know exactly what needs to be done by the end of the day. I know exactly who I need to contact, who I need to call, what animals the veterinarians need to take a look at. So it's really just being able to, if you're just someone who, kind of has like blinders on, you can really only focus on one thing at a time, you might struggle a bit. But that's something that you can definitely work on, start from the bottom and work your way up. Just something that takes a lot of practice. But another thing that's really big is communication, whether it's via email, over the phone, or in person. Just learning how to be professional and making things make sense, just being really thorough. I don't want to shorten phone calls, and just being, pleasant with everybody. I know it can be different in clinical practice. It can be kind of difficult, but here, like, everyone's here for the same reason, like animal welfare, getting as much information out on, these drugs that we're doing. It's really an awesome thing. So just communication and multitasking for my department in specific is something you would definitely need to build up or work on.
And same thing applies for regular study technicians besides being vet technician. team building, you have to work as a team to get everything done each day, make sure the animals are getting the best care possible. You have to be an ace at time management. Like I said, lots of variables working with animals, but you have to know how to handle those curves and punches that they're throwing at you and get everything done in the allotted amount of time when possible.
So I'm just curious with a follow-up question. That time management and the multitasking and the communication that you're referencing, are those skill sets that you feel like you were ready with off the bat when you graduated, or have you been working on them as you? Yeah, I think students will benefit from hearing
Developed
that.
over the
Yes.
years.
Yes, you couldn't ask me to write an email that sounded even remotely professional 5, 6, 7 years ago, but now I can do it with one hand while talking to Sam. I can probably be typing with my left hand professional. So yeah, it's definitely not something I think that a lot of people learn off the bat. Just takes a lot of practice, doing whatever jobs you're doing. You know, I learned the multitasking while I was in the restaurant business. So anyone who's in the restaurant business will 100% know what I'm talking about. So whether it's in lab animal or another job that's completely unrelated into the career you want to go into, you're going to learn it some way, somehow. So it just takes time.
Thanks. Okay, and this will be the last question. So maybe hard to pinpoint, but what's the single most important thing that you've learned in your career so far?
Well, I thought about this one, and it's advice I give to other folks, especially family members, is don't say no. When opportunities come up, don't undervalue yourself. Just say yes and figure it out, because you can figure it out. And a lot of times those are great opportunities that are intimidating. So give it some thought, but I think a lot of people don't take certain advancements or different positions because they're not confident. You know, not as a commercial for DelVal, but I think it gave me a great background to be able to figure things out. You know, we all know Google is my best friend, even when customers have questions, or my husband or a regulator. I can always go on Google and figure it out. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just saying yes first and then making it happen for yourself.
Something for me that I thought about is, you know, the lab animal science field is a lot smaller than I think people think it is. Wherever you go, you know, if you jump from one place to another and they're like, oh, I know someone from UPenn. Did you work with so-and-so? Yeah, they were there. Oh, I worked with them forever ago, or I went to college with them. They're great. So I know people say all the time, like, don't burn a bridge. But in lab animal science, if you're not going to want to burn a bridge, because someone is going to know you probably no matter where you go, or there's going to be connections somewhere all the time. So even if, you know, you go to a place and you're like, I hate this place, this is not my thing, you know, just leaving on like a good note, you know, respectfully, and just being, you know, open and honest with, you know, everything, instead of kind of just being like, oh, I'm handing in my badge and I'm walking out. Burning your bridge is not something I would encourage in the lab animal field. So everyone knows everybody.
Always, I would say, be open to learning new things. There's plenty of things that I've been trained for here that I initially did not want to learn. And they were like, no, I think you'd be good at it. And now I love like signing up for a late night to bleed a rat jugular vein. And I never thought that would be something I'd be good at, you know. Always be willing to learn something new, because you never know what you're good at until you try it.
Yes.
Thank you. Words of infinite wisdom here from this panel. I think it was just really helpful to hear your different perspectives and the different stories and trajectories that you're on and still on. So thank you everyone again for your time today. And please feel free to stay in touch with DelVal and with our office. And I think that's it for today. We'll sign off.
Okay,